You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Triple Double Podcast. My name's Corey Albertson. Jason Morrison here as our producer. And as everyone's requested for more Division I college coaches to come on the show, we've obliged. Today we've got a great guest. We've got Coach Ashley Howard. Coach, what's going on?
Hey, Corey. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. You sound energetic. I like that. We're ready to go here. So, Coach Ashley Howard is the head coach at LaSalle University, Philadelphia-based program out of the Atlantic 10 Conference. Coach just completed his first year there. Prior to LaSalle, he was on the Villanova staff with Coach Jay Wright from 2013 to 2018, including winning 2 national championships, and has also spent time at Drexel, Xavier, and as an assistant at LaSalle. So, Coach, you've been a couple places, but Philly certainly has been the theme for you, huh?
Yeah, man. I'm a Philly guy, born and raised, and very fortunate to have opportunity to be a head coach in my hometown.
Okay, good deal. Well, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is this. So, coming off the national championships at Nova, you get offered this opportunity, and everybody wants to be the boss. Everybody wants their opportunity to be a head coach, but in leaving Villanova, you probably had to start to feel like it was time. You've accomplished all you can accomplish as an assistant coach. So, what led to you making the move over to LaSalle?
Honestly, for me, it was the fact that I was familiar with LaSalle and that I started my coaching career there. So there were a lot of relationships that I created there, and there was always a connection. I was 23 years old as an assistant, so I was really the same age as some of the players when I was an assistant there. So it was a place that I was familiar with. It was a place that has unbelievable potential, and I thought that I was the guy that could help get LaSalle's program to the point where it's a force to be reckoned with in the Atlantic 10, and that's what we're trying to do.
Coming off of 2 national championships in 3 years, one of them last year, everybody else is probably celebrating, taking some time off, enjoying another banner year, and you've got to get right into it. So how quickly does that process go, and how intense is it those first couple of weeks, even coming off a national championship where there's basically no sleep, there's work to be done? Man,
it was crazy, but the thing is, it was like an adrenaline rush for me, just because it was an opportunity that I worked for my entire career. So, as soon as the NCAA tournament ended, I had interviews and preparation leading up to, going into my interview with LaSalle, and we actually had a parade in Philly. So, it was a lot of things that was going on, just mixed emotions of, knowing that I was going to have the opportunity to pursue my dream, but also, you're leaving Villanova, which is a great place with great people that I learned to love and really appreciate. So, it's just a ton of emotions that you go through. But then again, now you're a head coach, so now you got to hit the ground running. Obviously, recruiting and trying to hire a staff is something that's really important. Once you get in the door, it's nonstop. So, I honestly feel like I haven't stopped since last year this time. It's been, sort of kind of 2 seasons that just ran completely together. But, things started to slow down once the season started. And now it's finally normal for me now that this season has ended, and I can reflect on, the entire experience of making that transition from being an assistant to a head coach and pretty much overnight, so.
Right. When you look at being a head coach at LaSalle, and that's Atlantic 10 is kind of one of those conferences that's in that strange zone where it's definitely not a mid major, but it's definitely not a high major either. It's a little in between, and coming from Villanova, having been in Xavier before that, people would think that you're used to the first class amenities and things are going to be different. But one of the interesting things about Villanova, and I've been there when I worked at Cincinnati and we played on campus instead of downtown when we were there, is Villanova, for as great of a program as all the wins, the national championships, all that coach has done there, is a smaller school for a high major, and the resources are a little bit less, and coach has been able to do things there, but it was probably a pretty smooth transition from that standpoint.
Yeah, it's a small Catholic school. Villanova's a little bit bigger than LaSalle, but the one thing about Villanova was we didn't have a lot of the things that you would see at at some of the the BCS schools, and we didn't allow that to stop us from being great. We didn't make excuses. We just kind of put our heads down and grinded. And I'm taking the same approach at LaSalle. We don't have, some of the resources that some of the other programs have in our league. But you know what? I think we have great people. I think the people make the program. I think we have a talented coaching staff of guys that have great experience and are really committed to helping us elevate the program. And I think that's where it starts. It starts with the staff and the players. And now that we've got a year under our belt with our guys, I think they understand what the expectation is, and everybody involved is really excited about the opportunity to build this program. So, just because, I've been a part of, a program coming from Villanova that, that put so much stock into people and the culture, that's what we're trying to create at LaSalle. And, my time at Villanova definitely prepared me to just lay the foundation that way.
Well, with laying the foundation, you have one built-in advantage, and it's an earned advantage, and you are a huge part of those staff. But having won 2 titles in 3 years, when you walk in and tell the kids, this is how we're going to do things, I would think the kids would be smart enough to understand. Well, he certainly knows the answers. He's been through it. He's won on the highest level. And then going to resources. I hear you with LaSalle, a school like Dayton. It's a much, much bigger school in your league. Maybe, has better resources. I don't know. But the one thing that you guys have at LaSalle is a really, really good local recruiting base. And, you being a Philly guy, that's got to help too.
Yeah. It's awesome to be in Philly because, it's not just Philly, but, we're an hour and a half away from Baltimore, 2 hours from DC. Within an hour from Jersey and an hour and a half from New York. So we're right in the middle of this East Coast corridor, which is a hotbed for recruiting talent. And we have great relationships up and down that corridor. But, the thing that we try to do now is we're just trying to find the right kids that want to win, so, and then our, right here in our backyard, I think, conventional wisdom would say, you got a really good recruiting base, but in Philly, you got Villanova, you got Temple, you got St. Joe's University, you got the University of Penn. Like we got competition right here in our backyard. So, we can't just rely on just recruiting Philly. Even though Philly's a hotbed for talent, you get a lot of kids that want to leave Philly, and we've seen that as of late. So we got to do a good job of recruiting, not just Philly, but we got to make sure that we're strong up and down the East Coast. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Well, going back to the Villanova thing, Coach Wright has won so many games over the years, and especially the last couple of years, and he's done it with having great guys. Most of, a lot of them have gone on to be in the NBA, but at the same time, he's had a lot of guys go to the NBA or be really great college players that weren't McDonald's All-Americans. So he obviously and you guys as his staff obviously found a way to, cultivate relationships. Most of them are East Coast guys. So, how did you guys go about trying to find these kind of diamonds in the rough and, getting them to go to Villanova?
I think one of the things in recruiting that we did was we trusted our own eyes. You know what I mean? We didn't necessarily just sort of kind of just follow, rankings and scouting services. And I know you guys do a good job of identifying talent, but there's certain guys that you just have to be able to see and say like, yo, in our program, if we get this guy and we can get this guy stronger, what can he be? And I think that we identify some guys, but we also recruited guys that won in high school. All of the guys that played on our team in Villanova, they were accomplished high school players, man. Jalen Brunson won a state championship. Dante DiVincenzo, 2 state championships. Phil Booth won, I want to say 3 Baltimore Catholic League championships. Chris Jenkins won a WCAC championship, right? So, the guys that we had, those guys came from winning pedigree. And I think when you get a combination of all those guys together at the same time, it was just a great match for creating a winning culture, because there were guys that were just used to winning and understood what it took to all play a role on a really good team. So it was a combination of just trusting our eyes and identifying guys that came from winning pedigrees.
But it's also got to be hard to sell them to go to Villanova because, unlike some of these other programs out here, one thing that Coach Wright is not known for is playing freshmen big minutes. And a lot of those guys, had to sit at some point in their career where they didn't play a lot. And in today's recruiting game, that can be a detriment. But you guys were obviously able to get around that with culture, I assume.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think, when I first got to Villanova, we were returning some guys. So the good thing about our teams at Nova were we were always older. We didn't necessarily have to rely on freshmen, and I think that gave us an advantage. But the freshmen that we recruited, all those guys played as freshmen. They may not have came in and started, but they came in and they played a significant role. There were certain guys in recruiting that we went after aggressively that were highly touted kids. And they didn't come just because we had older guys, and I don't know if they necessarily saw the clear path opportunity to come in and start. So I think, that was one of the things. So, like I said, the guys that we recruited, we knew that they were coming from winning pedigree. They valued being a part of a winning team. And when they made the decision to go to Villanova, they kind of knew that, that it would be a process where they would, be brought along. And some of those dudes accelerated. Jalen Brunson started as a freshman, won a national championship. Josh Hart, he didn't necessarily start as a freshman, but he played a major role on a really good Big East championship team. And then you had guys like Mikal Bridges, who actually made the decision that he wanted the redshirt. And I think that redshirt year really helped him with his development, gave him the ability to get stronger, work on his shot. Battle with Josh Hart and Darren Hilliard every day in practice. So by the time he stepped on the floor, he was ready to go. He was battle tested because he played against some high level guys at his position every day in practice. And I think that's what the Villanova culture and the program was all about.
And you talked about being on some good teams there and some teams that won the title and, some teams that had different type of runs. And one thing I want to talk about that I think recording the podcast today is perfect, being that we're in the day after the Final Four is being set. And you look at some of these blue blood programs, Kentucky being one of them where, they just give Calipari a lifelong contract, which I think is great. And he's done so much there. And, there's members of the fan base that are still upset with what he's accomplished. What I wanted to talk to a college coach, we've been waiting to have, another Division I head coach on this podcast to talk about this, which is, I think, one of the most complex issues in college basketball from a fan base perspective is how do you define a successful season? And you guys at Nova had 2 titles, but then you also had years where you didn't get a title, but you won 25 plus games or something. So, from your perspective as a Division I coach, some years you're going to win 25 games and have an early exit. One year you might only win 18 games, but somehow make it to the Elite Eight, have a great run in March. And, I don't think, from my perspective, one of those is a better season than another when you look at it in the long term. So with the pressures of the NCAA tournament, how do you guys as college coaches define a successful season?
Honestly, I think the great college coaches, and these are the guys that are experienced enough to understand that, your season isn't defined based on whether or not you win one game or not. You know what I mean? And that's what the NCAA tournament comes down to. It comes down to one game. And, once you get into the NCAA tournament, every team that's in that tournament is a good team that can beat you, right? I mean, you look at Duke. I mean, Duke, they probably have 3 lottery picks on their team, and they lost to a tough Michigan State team, but they could have lost to Central Florida or in the game after that. I forget who the next game was.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech, right? So they could have lost either one of those games. So it just goes to show you how good all the teams in the tournament are. And just like they lost to Michigan State, like they could have beat Michigan State. You know what I mean? So, you don't define, a successful season, when you're in it. You don't define it based off of one game. I think you define it on whether or not you got the most out of that group. And I think a lot of times, people on the outside looking in, they don't understand, how challenging it is to get the most out of every group, because every year is a new team. You look at Coach Cal and what he does, with young kids, man, it's impressive. You know what I mean? Like he pretty much has a new team every year. So you don't have the cohesiveness from one year to the next, where you got guys that have played together for 2 or 3 years that kind of understand your system. Like he's getting the most out of a different group of guys every single year. So, for Coach Kyle, the years that, he makes it to the Final Four and gets there, like that is a huge accomplishment, because he's pretty much doing it, with a brand new group. You know what I mean? And if you look at a Texas Tech, like we beat Texas Tech last year in the Elite Eight. Texas Tech returns a lot of guys. They add a couple pieces, and now they make a Final Four run. You look at Virginia. Virginia was one of the best teams in college basketball last year. They didn't have DeAndre Hunter, who was the Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC. In the first round upset against UMBC, they had a disappointing loss. But you know what? They have the chemistry. They return a lot of their key guys, and now they make a run. So in college basketball, you look at it and you're starting to see that the teams that are making these runs in the tournament, a lot of these teams are just older teams that have the experience, and these great coaches. They're able to get these teams to be the best that they can be, because they have the experience, and they have guys that are been through it and are just poised to make the run. So.
And there's luck involved in it too. I mean, the bounce of the ball in some of these games is just so nerve-wracking, and it comes down to it. But yeah, if you look at somebody like, you could talk about Calipari, you talk about Coach K, but talk about Coach Wright last year, and you guys win the national championship. Would Coach Wright, if you asked him, would he say that was the best coaching job that he ever did? Maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't, but he also probably had the most talent he's ever had. And what he really did was not do the best coaching he's ever done and make huge changes. What he probably did was just, build that culture over the years. So, and, if he lost, Virginia lost in the first round last year, was that the worst coaching job that Coach Bennett ever did? No, it was just the fact that, a couple of things didn't go their way. Fan bases, I think, tend to get too far removed from normal, whether it's, extreme jubilation or extreme disappointment, where in the end, it really just comes down to, you got to be lucky to get through the NCAA tournament, and you've got to have players, and you've got to have, experience and matchups, and a lot of things got to go your way.
No doubt, man. And you even look at what Villanova did this year, And, I can make the argument that Coach Wright and his staff did a better job coaching this year than we did in the year last year. We won the national championship when we have 4 NBA players. You know what I mean? Because this year they lost 4 NBA players and they still won a Big East regular season and a Big East tournament championship. You know what I mean? So, it's all semantics. But, once you get into March Madness, the thing that we all sign up for as college coaches is knowing that, you're probably going to be identified, based on, the success that you have in March. And as unfortunate as it may be, it's what we all signed up for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially with, the one thing that's tough about the East Coast jobs is, some of the built-in rivalries aren't there like they used to be in terms of, people being in different conferences. So it really does come down to March. And, you guys were just fortunate to have two great runs.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It was awesome to be a part of.
So the last thing I wanted to ask you about is this, and again, coming from working with Coach Mack at Xavier to working with Coach Wright at Nova to being your own head coach now, the other thing that's kind of driven me crazy that's been in the news is the critique of Coach Izzo for getting on that young kid, kind of going crazy, and with the guys in the Final Four this year, I see guys like Bruce Pearl, who's extraordinarily intense up and down, yelling on the sideline. And he tends to not get as much flack as, somebody like Izzo, who's quote unquote, an old school coach in terms of getting on his guys. But, why do you think we're seeing that type of stuff in the media right now in college basketball?
This is the time of year where, the media needs stuff to talk about. You know what I mean? So, whether it's, Izzo, getting on his players, or, whether it's a big time shot that's made, or whether it's an interesting storyline, like early in the tournament, you got Minnesota playing against Louisville, where you got Patino Jr. playing against his dad's old teams. Like it's all about, storylines and hype, and, Coach Izzo, he coaches his guys hard, right? Well, what does that mean? He coaches guys hard to the Final Four. You know what I mean? And now the fact that everybody was on him about, getting on his player that way, now it's just something else to talk about now here as we head into the Final Four. But it's all a part of it, man. It's all a part of the madness. It's all a part of what makes college basketball great. Is that once you get to March, it's full of unexpected surprises. It's full of different plots and twists and different storylines, and it's great for the media. It's great for the fans, and it's great for us to talk about.
The thing with Izzo, and then I think the exact same can be said for Chris Beard and Bruce Pearl, is for as intense as they are on the sidelines, you watch the celebration, or even you watch, the Auburn Pearl's reaction when the Okiki kid gets hurt. You see two things, which is number one, for as hard as they are on their guys, they have fun, they enjoy the game, they love to compete. And then number two, you could tell as coaches how much they care about their guys. And for all the coaches who are difficult on their guys, if you're going to be successful at this level, you have to have those traits. And I think in judging, Izzo by getting on one kid, you're forgetting about all the rest that goes into it.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing is, you don't know, what he's getting on the kid about. You know what I mean? It could have been, something that they talked about in a timeout prior to that previous possession that the kid completely forgot to do. You know what I mean? But the one thing about Coach Izzo is that, he's a great coach. His players love and respect him. He's an unbelievable ambassador for Michigan State University, not just the basketball program. So, certain things, like I said, man, they're just really just things to talk about during this time of year. I think when you look at a guy who is a Hall of Fame coach and Coach Izzo, I think that, if you try to find reasons to nitpick or find fault in something that he's doing. I just think you're just looking for something to talk about, really, and not really paying attention to the bigger picture. Is that the dude has an unbelievable record in the NCAA tournament. Dude has unbelievable history of developing great NBA players, and his players love and adore him. You know what I mean? Like what more could you ask for out of a guy?
I think from a recruiting standpoint, if you're a parent and you're fortunate enough to recruit kids who have parents or whatever support system that gets the process and understands what's best, is you say, well, this is how he's going to coach your kid. This is how he's going to love your kid off the court. And he is getting the most out of your kid. And if you want somebody just to sit back and roll the ball out and, let your kid have fun, I mean, that's great. He's going to have a fun 4 years, but is it going to give him a chance to play professional ball? Is it going to give him a chance to grow up from being 18 to 22? And because of that, I mean, you couldn't even tell me otherwise. That's why Tom Izzo, as well as 50, 100 other coaches, that's why they get not just good players, but great players.
No doubt. And the other thing is, like you said, if you go to Michigan State, there's a certain expectation there, right? And I think they recruit a certain type of player that fits their system and their culture. So, any player that wears that uniform and is playing for Coach Izzo, they know that they're getting a coach that's holding them to a certain standard. So when Coach gets on you, man, you know what the expectation is, and the expectation is that you're competing at a high level. And if Coach doesn't think you're competing at the level that's expected, he's going to get on you. So that's what you sign up for when you go to Michigan State. You sign up for a guy that's going to expect you to be great every possession.
Okay. Well, in closing here, why don't you tell us this? What's next for LaSalle basketball as you try and build it from year 1 to year 2 to, make it a force in Philly and then the A-10 and then, the country? What's the next step?
You know what? I think that the next step for us is to just keep getting better and take advantage of this off season. Like I said, last year's off season was really just so much of me getting my feet underneath me as a head coach that, I didn't have the ability to really focus on what we needed to do to get better. I think we have a great recruiting class coming in that we're excited about. I think that the guys that we have returning all improved and are poised to have even better years than they did this year. So it's a balance and a combination of just putting it all together and trying to get better every year. I think that the Atlantic 10 Conference is a beast, man. Like we were young this year. Our league had a lot of young talent, and a lot of the teams, most of the teams in our league, are returning their entire teams. So it's going to be a grind in the A-10 next year. We're looking forward to being right there in the mix with some of the better teams in the league, and hopefully we can all show and prove, and the A-10 can get back to being a 4 or 5 bid league come March, and hopefully we can position LaSalle to be right in the thick of things when it's all said and done.
Well, that's great, and we appreciate that. We appreciate you coming on. You've got a winning pedigree, so I'm quite confident you're going to get them to that level. So I want to thank you very much for taking time. This is a busy week for everybody. For a lot of coaches going to the Final Four, so I want to thank you for taking time to talk to us today.
Absolutely, Corey. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that was Coach Ashley Howard of LaSalle University. And for Jason Moore, I'm Corey Albertson. You listen to the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to playeasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, Play Easy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at playeasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.